Mendel Palace. Candy needs your help. And welcome to Nostalgia, a chronological exploration of every NES game released in North America. I'm Mike.
I'm Sean.
And I'm Joe.
Mendel Palace, developed by a little company known as Game Freak. You guys know Game
Never
Freak?
heard of them. Never heard of them.
Familiar.
This is their debut game. This is their very first game, and it's not even just like, oh, well, who even was Game Freak back then? This is the Pokemon guys. This is the director of the game is Satoshi Tajiri. Yeah, Satoshi Tajiri is the director. He's the one who goes on to like create Pokemon, and then you have Ken Sugimori's the artist who also does all the original art for the 151. And I'm sure many
Who
other
can
Pokemon
forget
after
Shigs,
that.
right?
Yeah. No, that's what we call Shigeru Miyamoto. We call him Shiggy.
I didn't say
That's not what he
Shiggy.
said.
Oh, what'd you say? Shug?
Shigs.
Shigs, okay. Yeah, sure. That's the same thing, I think. I think we're having a semantics battle here. And then the composer, also Junichi Masuda, who does all the music for the Pokemon games. So really, this is a Pokemon game, right?
It's the prequel.
It seems to be. I mean, I can see it.
Yeah,
I can
not
see
even
it in the
kidding.
art.
A lot of the sprites evoke Pokemon sprite work to me.
Which is makes sense, right? That's why we're saying that this is the team, and I like that it's the team, not just in name only, but also with the crew. So, Mendel Palace, real fast, just want to get this out of the way because I think it'll be easier to explain now than in like a sequels and spin-off section. Mendel Palace originally came out in Japan as a game called Quinty, and they're basically the same game, like in-game, everything's the same. The only thing different is the story. So while I'm explaining the American version, I might as well explain the Japanese version. The American version, you play as the Bonbon, right? Not Bonbon. Bonbon,
Say it
who has to rescue his girlfriend Candy, who is trapped in her own dream. What is that last part necessary?
No, that's like that's like 100% like just a normal video game.
It's Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, right, the Candy part is like, you know, that's her name and whatever, but like the rest of it, too ridiculous.
I mean, I'll be honest. I played a significant amount of this game. I know absolutely nothing about any of this story, so I don't have much to add.
You can play this game for 10 levels and not know that there is a story.
Yeah, that's
right.
true. Actually, yeah, you do get just thrown into it. The Japanese version, the protagonist's name is not Bonbon, it is Cardin. His girlfriend is Jenny, and she has been kidnapped by Cardin's jealous younger sister, Quinty.
That is very important to say. The one thing that I kept like running into when I was at least reading about this game, because I'm not gonna, get first-hand sources, it's all secondhand for me, was like just how annoyed everyone was with how cute the game was. Were you running into this too?
I wasn't. I was very pleased with how cute the game
Oh,
was.
no. Like,
I know. But I'm surprised that was the...
but it's just funny that like everything I was reading was just like, yeah, but can you cut out all the cute stuff? And it sounds like the story is really leaning into that cute stuff in a way that we wouldn't think about it otherwise. I don't know.
It's funny because like I can understand that if it's like an existing property that it's like, oh, it's gotten really cute now. It's like, oh yeah, it's like Pokemon now, they're too cute. They used to be like fierce or whatever. I get that if someone, I don't think that's true, but like if that's the direction that they went with this, is like, this is just a cute game. Like that's what they made. They'd be like, don't make this cute. It's like, that's what it is. It's like, already is. It's like saying like, Kirby should be edgier.
Well, he is in Japan. He doesn't smile on any of the box arts.
It's
you know about
Kirby's
that?
I didn't know this.
If you look up any Kirby video games box art in the North American box, he's smiling, and in the Japanese ones, he's not. He's like,
wow.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's just a thing. it's been a thing for as long as Kirby's been around, and I don't know the reasoning.
So
but,
Kirby's a thug in Japan.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I hope I don't have them flipped, but it would still apply. It's definitely like a thing. I just don't know who's. And now I'm thinking about like, well, why would he smile if he's in America?
I was going to say, I feel like it's more. I would be less surprised if it was the American version, because I just feel like that there's like that whole thing with Pokemon too, where it's like in America, like Charizard was like marketed heavier because like they thought Americans wouldn't like the cute Pokemon.
Which
And
is just
they were
so
right.
wrong. Yeah, no, Pikachu.
Yeah, whatever.
Yep. Okay, let's talk about Mendel Palace, because I'm sure we'll make tons of Pokemon connections along the way. This game is another one of those puzzle games, but not like last week's Loops. This one is more like Adventures of Lolo or, I don't know, games of that style. Each level is a single 5x7 grid room. Each of those grids is like a floor tile that you can flip to propel enemies or reveal other floor tiles underneath them. It's very unclear what's going to be under the floor tile, so you might as well just flip things around as long as you're out of harm's way. There are boundary walls along the perimeter of each room, and there are also other ways to create these walls inside the room, but that is how you take out enemies. You flip the tiles or create, like flipping some tiles or stepping on some tiles create seismic waves throughout the room that ripple and hit the enemies as well. All these things cause the enemies to hit into the walls where they get knocked out. That is the only way to finish off an enemy. There isn't a projectile or melee attack. It's just simply hit them into a boundary and they will
explode.
Will be removed. They'll
Yes.
be. I was gonna say removed, but sure, they'll explode, and that's it. All the enemies for each like stage or area behave differently or have like distinct movement patterns to them, or abilities that they have locked off in just that specific area. So the goal remains constant no matter which area you're in. Destroy all the enemy dolls in the room, and you will proceed to the next room. There are 10 rooms in each world. You're free to go to any of the worlds at any time, though, correct?
Yeah,
I
think
only ever went to the right, so maybe.
I kind of jumped around a little bit. I left. I got the top left, the bottom left, and the top right. All whatever those. All of those. I think there's like 2 in the bottom right corner that I never finished. But I just went in all different order, and I don't know if there's an intended order.
Yeah, because I would
There
actually
has
say
to be.
I don't know if there's an intended order, because so the first one is very easy. The one that it starts you on with the green guys, that's a very easy, like, here's the basics of the game and everything. But if you move to the right and start facing off against those guys who wear the onesies with the mohawks,
And
they're
they
pretty
jump.
hard. Yeah, the jump,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's like, whoa, where's this coming from? This wasn't the same game I was just playing.
I think that I've kind of gathered, and this is only true to an extent, but that each world does kind of feel like it could be level 1. Now, like, in the sense that, like, level 1 of each world, I'm calling them worlds, whatever they are, level 1 of each world is pretty easy on each of them. Level 2, like, I feel you could start at any of them and, like, oh, okay, I get the idea of this game. And then you go to the next one and you're like, oh, they changed it up a little bit because these enemies move differently.
Yeah, but I think like and again, this is somebody that has only played the first 3 worlds because I felt like I got my fill. But I think that the complexity, not the complexity, but just like how much is going on that you have to keep track of it's pretty simple in those, like it starts out simpler than it ends up being as you keep moving. And like even just who we're talking about, like these characters that they're not always susceptible to your attack because they are kind of jumping at this relative like rhythmic speed. Like a lot of that is like you're basing everything on top of what you've learned prior.
Yeah. And to your point there too, like stage 1 or level 1 within a world is like, okay, I see what these enemies do. Level 2, level 3, but like by level 4, like the enemies start doing maybe like one more variation of what they're doing. So like by level 10 of each world, it's like each world almost feels like its own little game. Where you feel the progression of the enemies.
Yes, you feel the progression of the enemies, but the objective remains the same. No matter
right.
Yeah, no matter what area or level you're in.
Smash them into wall.
The objective remains the same, but it's the behavior of the enemies that makes the gameplay different. Like, you're doing the same stuff, but the environment does go a long way into making you have to do different things.
Yes. So did it play more like a puzzle game or an action game to you guys?
Interesting. I don't know. I mean, I guess more like an action game, but it's like an action game with a decent puzzle element, but it's never like I'm sitting there thinking like I've got to solve this.
Oh yeah, because it's happening. It's a game where the enemies are constantly moving.
Yeah.
There's a lot. The tile flipping is something that you do have to be, especially in later levels, like mindful about.
Yeah. So I guess the action is front of mind for me, and then like puzzle element is almost secondary, where it's like my primary goal is to like keep things at bay right now, and then I'll like slowly as I'm doing that figure out, okay, what's my game plan. But it never gets like crazy complex with like what do I have to figure out here.
I would almost like give the opposite answer, because I think that like if you know what the concept is for a certain level, like you can figure it out. You can clear it pretty quickly, and the kind of twitch reflexes that the action portion of it are forcing you to do if you get yourself in the corner are kind of secondary to what the game wants you to do, which is just to figure out how to clear them as fast as possible, and each level is kind of setting you up for a certain like you have like a different solve. So
Yeah.
I would say like, yeah, you end up, if you don't know the answer, which I think most people will be as they play this the first time, if you don't know the answer to the question of that level, it's gonna feel more like an action game because there's a lot more twitch reflexes going into it. But if you know the puzzle element, you're not gonna think of it as much as a puzzle game, because you just know. Yeah,
that's true. There's a decent balance between the two. Especially, I don't know if you got to the level where, well, I think there's a couple like this, but there's a level where the enemies, like they all kind of, their whole thing is that they draw versions of themselves that then like duplicate.
Oh yeah.
And that one, I think there's a couple like that. One of the worlds where they are duplicating, I was just like, I mean, there was one point like towards the end, it was like level 9 in that world where I was like, I'm just trying to like keep my head above water right now. Like, there's just like, I cannot keep up with how many of these things there are. So I guess it is a little bit of both in that, where it's like, yeah, I just got to constantly be like running around and like protecting the board from being overrun. But then also I've got to like, if I don't figure this out, nothing's going to change at all ever, So it's like, you kind of have to do both.
So describing the floor panels a little more, there usually when you enter a room, there's just whatever the generic floor design for that specific world is. It usually changes colors too, but like there's that generic pattern, and then there's usually like some star panels as well. That like if you walk on the stars, you'll collect points. So it's kind of like, great, what are the points? But if you don't notice, actually, it does increase your speed as well. So there is like an in-game reason too to like collect those stars. I thought it was just for points. They do also increase your speed, which will help because the enemies are slightly faster than you. So to kind of gain that advantage back is nice. But there's also a lot of invisible tiles. That is tiles that when you do flip the floor, and I do want to like try and think about what this visual actually is. Like, what is this guy actually doing? Like,
I don't know. I was gonna say this too because it bothers me that the game says you're flipping the tiles, and that we say it, and that everything online says this is a game about flipping tiles. When I'd say you're more sliding these tiles.
Yeah, it's definitely that.
Kicking them. But yeah, you slide a tile, but it doesn't go into the next tile. It goes like underneath it.
Yeah, there's like little places that you can slip a tile under.
Right.
And it's so weird because it's so much a game feel thing that ends up being more important than you think it will be. And
Yeah,
there's too much of it. There's too much of it to actually understand what the actual physical thing you're doing is.
Yeah.
And you're also just like sometimes you're flipping tiles and nothing happens, and then one time you'll get like the cross
this is
panel.
10,000 points.
Or no,
or
you get
yeah.
like something important, the cross panel one, which makes it so that like it shuffles a whole row of panels and sends everybody flying. And that's like, whoa, I wish I would have known that was there. I guess like it wants you to experiment, but it reveals a lot. Because even those cross panel ones, because they flip so many, it will also reveal some other tiles that previously had stars and stuff. And then there's one level I think of specifically that I thought was fun, where like you find out about the cross panel thing in a previous level, so you're like, oh, this thing is great, I should use this all the time, make sure the enemies are lined up with that row, and I'll just send them all flying. And I used it, and it triggered one of those enemy panels as well, so enemies started spawning.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, that was a trap. Like, this game is kind of creative.
I guess like a part of this is it's kind of building off of loops from last week, where we were kind of complaining that there wasn't enough information. And when I think about puzzle games today, I'm thinking about complete information and trying to deal with complete information to end up with the best possible the best possible way forward with that. And between loops and this, it's like it's completely incomplete information, and you just have to do trial and error to find a way. Like, and this is just me guessing because I didn't play enough of this game to confirm, but like, is like when you play each level, like, are there like hidden tiles that always give you that like omnidirectional push?
Yes.
Or is it okay? If that's the case, then sure. Then there is complete information. You just have to find it. I still don't think that's entirely like ludo narratively like fun. I would prefer there to be like you can intuit this shit. But I guess it's just between these past two games, it's like you just have to play it enough to understand how the puzzle works. Whereas in my more modern games, you kind of know how each puzzle works, and it's just finding a way to execute it properly. And maybe I'm rambling, but like, is this sort of what you guys feel right now?
I don't know. I feel like, I mean, as far as the hidden tiles, especially like that sun one or whatever it is that fires every direction, I don't mind that being kind of like in a random spot, because it feels like a little, like a nice bonus. It's never been what I'm looking for in any of the puzzles. It's always like it's a bonus when I come across it, but like I'm usually just trying to solve the puzzle. It feels like it's like a little power up that I wasn't expecting, whereas the rest of the way that the puzzle is solved, there is a little bit of fun to like the figuring it out element to, the like, okay, what are these guys? Like, I get the level with the big heavy guys that like stomp, and like, they've got kind of their own, you got to think about it totally differently, because they can stomp and they'll slide a whole parallel or a whole like horizontal row of tiles like all the way across, and if you're on it, they're going to slide you away too. You got to think differently, and they're heavier, so they don't move as far, and you got to think about like, how can I deal with these guys in a different way than I would deal with like the dancers who move really fast and spin around and everything. So it's just, I don't hate the like going into it blind and level one being very easy with these new rules, and you kind of experiment to figure out the rules. That was kind of charming to me.
I guess I'm just too like I guess I just think too closed off in a way of like, I'll play Slay the Spire, and all of those enemies tell you what they're going to do, and you have to, like, the puzzle is figuring out how to create your deck in a way that sort of preempts that. Or another example would be Into the Breach, where each turn, you know exactly what's going to happen, and you have to figure out a way to counter that. And I know that this is like 30, 40 years later in certain circumstances, but like I guess like the concept of a puzzle game is just different now that I feel annoyed by these things, and maybe you guys aren't.
Yeah, I mean, it's just for me, I feel like there's a place for both of those to me. You know, like I wouldn't want. I've never played Slay the Spire, but I imagine if I played it, I would. That sounds like a type of puzzle I would enjoy too. It just sounds like scratching a different itch for me.
I think I have a hot take that I don't even know if I would stand by if I got a chance to experience the game like it, but it was a thought that I had that I was like, yeah, I'd like to see this version of the game too. And that is that I described the game at the beginning as a 5x7 grid. And that is true. Like there are that many tiles in every single room, but the game does not move in a grid itself. Like there is like another like sub grid within that you can take like multiple steps within a tile and even dodge enemies that way. And I think this would make the game extremely challenging, but also somewhat like in a weird way easier to control too. Like sometimes this made it weird for me as well, that like I wasn't on a specific tile, I was on like a portion of a tile. I feel like I would like to see a version of this game that made it so that like, no, you're on that tile and no other enemy can also be on that tile or else you'll be out. But they can also only stand on one individual tile at a time as well. Because what you really have in this game is you could have you and 3 other enemies all on a tile. But as long as you're all on different parts of the tile, nobody's colliding with anybody.
It's super weird, too. Yeah, like it's almost like you are an analog character within a digital plane. But that also isn't the case because like a lot of these enemies like will also be on the tile that you're trying to shift, and whether they're jumping or if there's some other thing going on with them, like they may not be affected by what you do. So it might be I might be lying a bit here, but it's just a weird combination where you're affecting things in kind of a digital space, but you're a little bit more analog than you think you should be. It's odd.
Yeah, I think that I have this when it comes to like arcade games. There's a lot of the games that I classify as arcadey, I often don't love. They're not my favorite. And I think that like part of what makes me like, I think that one of the elements that like often makes me like less interested is that like grid snappiness. I don't know. It just doesn't feel as good to me. I understand that it might like be actually like more conducive to a certain type of gameplay, but something about moving that way never feels as good to me. So I think I would keep it the way it is just for me personally.
At the end of each world, as you're continuing to learn the enemies and they make it increasingly harder, at the end there is like a boss level with a more challenging enemy or configuration of enemies. Not asking if that pays off in any regard, but like did the game need like bigger bosses? Like did it need like a more action oriented stage for the finale of each level, or was it like fine that it was like, well, it's still like it's this game but now there's just like a tougher enemy?
It's weird because I can't decide. Like I feel like every level like had kind of just like a random level of difficulty boss at the end. Some were hard, some were like trivial. You know, there was one that took me like a few tries to beat, and then the next one, like one of the later ones, which looks like it would be one of the later ones, it was further away from the starting area, so it seems like it should be a harder one. I remember it was like a boss that like waved a magic wand, and I was like dodging it for a while, but then like when I ran into the magic wand, it turned me into one of the big guys, and then I could stomp and just kill her, and then that was it. Like I just had to hit one button and I won. So like, and that was kind of weird to me after like fighting. And like the first one, there isn't even a battle. You just like see a little cutscene.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It felt like it was not coherent or not cohesive.
And did the game's I guess it's supposed to be a dream, but even just the surrealness of it, like did that surreal theme come through in the design here? Like there's obviously like between Bonbon and your girlfriend Candy, like there's some kind of candy motif too, but like I don't think that really comes through in the actual gameplay, the stars and the suns and icons and stuff like that are like a different competing thing. I guess it's like, it's fine because it's all, like we were talking about early on, it's all very cute, and so it's fine. But I guess if you really think about it, there is like a little like lack of cohesiveness across the like various things that it's throwing at you, between the candy theme, the dream theme, the I don't know, like the doll theme. Like there's just like a lot of different things going on.
Yeah, I didn't even know there was a candy theme.
I think something that I associate with more modern puzzle games, and obviously every time we talk about something, I'm going to talk about Portal, is that there is an escalation. You're using every skill that you learned in the past few episodes, or like you're going to use the momentum that you used in Portal 1, and then this kind of paint in Portal 2, and you're kind of building on everything, and it just seems that this is not a thing in this kind of game. Like, it's just every section is building on a concept, but every section seems to be very like different. It's not built on everything before. It's just working off of the one thing, and yeah. I still think that like really resonates nowadays. It just feels kind of like you're playing a different level 2 every time.
Yeah, to me, honestly, it feels like
in that way. Yeah,
it feels like every section does what you're describing that normally entire games do. It's like every section is its own like mini game that, like, yeah, you build on like a couple of little things that you learn in this section, then you move on to the next section, and it's like, forget all that, here's a bunch of new stuff.
I think you're giving it a very charitable reading there, because I think that that's giving it like, every section is its own game, it's its own puzzle game, whereas I think it's like every section is its own like little spin on a puzzle game that isn't really, it's not like you never get a combo where you're using different concepts from different sections of the game to find new solutions. It's just you're finding the same way to solve a problem 8 times in a game.
Yeah, I'm not claiming that each section is as full as an actual full game, but I'm just saying there's evolution. And you're right, it doesn't necessarily like take one small element and then introduce another element in level 2, and then in level 3 you got to do both of those elements at once that I can think of. But they do evolve within those things. But yeah, I'm not claiming that like each of those are its own, this is 10 games.
But maybe you are.
Who could know? Who could know for sure?
Should any of these doll enemies or anything in this game be like inspiration for a Pokemon design in the future?
Oh, absolutely. Brock is like in level 2.
That's a dude. That's not a Pokemon.
It's okay.
Yeah, Brock.
There's
a dude that looks like Brock.
Can you catch a Brock?
No.
Yeah, sure. No one's ever tried to throw a Pokeball at a human.
Why were we both so like stunned by that question? We both were like flabbergasted for a minute.
Yeah, I guess Sean wants to capture humans in Pokeballs. That's weird.
But you haven't thought about it.
Maybe it's because I already knew this is a Game Freak, but I swear your guy, even though he's got a little like soul patch or something, kind of looks like, it's kind of designed with red.
It's the eyes.
It's the eyes and the hat.
Yeah. And a lot of the people that you fight against look like random Pokemon trainers. So I get it.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about the dolls that draw the other enemies that then come on the screen and stuff. I feel like that's a neat Pokemon design. Like, obviously, you can't have a human be a Pokemon, so I'm not saying the human part, but I'm saying like
normalized
a Pokemon,
human Pokemans.
I guess I'm describing Smeargle with the like
sort of.
Smeargle's sketch ability and everything.
All right, hold
but
on,
like a
hold
Pokemon,
on.
that
Let me look this up. How do you spell that? Smeargle?
Smeargle. It's exactly how it sounds.
Pokemon.
Because he sketches like other Pokemon's moves.
Yeah,
right?
Just a
Yeah.
dog
Their
with
moves.
like a
Yeah.
brush.
A dog.
Yeah.
It's a dog.
Look
with
up
a, with a brush.
Houndoom. Okay, that's a dog.
It's a dog.
Anyway, yeah, I thought that was just a fun question because as we stated, this is a Game Freak game. And, I tried looking into it basically just sends you down the world's largest rabbit hole if you start looking into, like, the beginning of the Pokemon stuff and everything. So, to the best of my knowledge, what I was able to get to, because we're not going to make this into a Pokemon episode, is that Satoshi Tajiri, who was the director of this game, it took a lot for him to get this game made, to convince people, specifically Nintendo and the like, to publish it. And the success of this game allows him to create the Pokemon series. It's not that Mendel Palace inspires and then he's like, oh, because of Mendel Palace, I created Pokemon. It's like, it really just gives him the freedom to be able to then go to Nintendo and say, like, this is 1990, and he's saying, I've got this idea for Pokemon, and it's going to be on the Game Boy, and you can use the link cable to trade with your friends and everything. And they're like, great, here's some money, make the game. And it takes them 6 years. Like, from 1990 to 1996, they're making Pokemon. So I think that's like pretty interesting, but that's like where it stops for like what you can talk about between Mendel Palace and Pokemon, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I felt like there was an oversell on the Wikipedia article of just like, oh yeah, and it kind of led to Pokemon. I think it was just more like it just led to the real life situation where like he could do that because now he had industry connections and it was a lot less poetic.
This time had to pass before the time that they made Pokemon could have become.
Right. Yes, good call. And there was a remake for the Super Nintendo, there was a remake planned, but it never came out. And oddly enough, it was going to be for, this is confusing to say, but it was going to be for the Japanese distribution system, Nintendo Power, which has nothing to do with the magazine.
What the hell does that have to do with anything?
Super Nintendo Power was a thing that like would allow you to connect your Super Nintendo to the internet to download games.
Whoa, dude.
Insane, right?
To the internet?
Yeah, the internet back in 1994.
The super highway.
Yep.
Wow.
But maybe that's the Satellaview, right? That's the Satellaview.
I thought that's what you would be talking about at this point. Yeah.
Right, but the Nintendo Power is also a cartridge, so maybe the Nintendo Power was the one that allowed you to, like, you go to a store and they would flash the image onto it for you.
Yeah, we should probably figure this out before we like start talking about it on.
No,
like,
no, I'm just I know this stuff.
It feels like we're doing like a Mad Lib of like video game terminology. Like Nintendo Power is not a cartridge.
No,
was Nintendo Power a cartridge?
I guess so.
It was a cartridge in Japan. I know all this, but yes, I'm pretty sure that was the difference. The Satellaview, which has the really weird remake of the original Legend of Zelda game, but using the Link to the Past graphics, that was available via the internet download system. And the Nintendo Power was like, you bought this one cart and you were able to essentially get, you could flash memory or ROMs onto it in order to play those games.
All right. Well, let me ask you a quick question that may make some of our listeners feel like, oh, Sean's just a fucking idiot.
Sure.
Satellaview, that implies satellite, right?
Yep.
So let's say you have your Nintendo in a fully enclosed room.
Okay.
Did you have to like bring it out and like put it into did you have to like connect it to a satellite
dish? It's a great question. I want you to know that you were probably a little misled on what you think the Satellaview is. The Satellaview isn't just a cartridge.
Sure.
So it's not a cartridge that connects to a satellite.
You
the
don't.
Satellaview also had had like a hardware component that you had to connect to your Super Nintendo that basically acted like the modem.
Okay, but did it have to have a clear view of the southern sky to work?
No, it did not. It just needed connection to the internet.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for dealing with
problem. And,
I didn't even know any of that. Like that's Satellaview implied satellite even, so you're good.
Pretty sure the Sega Genesis also had internet. Like this isn't crazy stuff.
Satenagus.
Yeah, that's what they call it. Satenagus does what Satella
I don't like that.
What else? If you had to design your own doll, what would that? Well, in this game, of course, not just in real life. What would that design or attack pattern be? I can go first if you guys want a little time.
Yeah,
yes,
you do it.
please.
Okay, I was thinking, finally, let's get the doll that is basically like, they're like shadows. So they're like you, maybe they're like Heartless Joe, and they can also flip tiles and they fight back.
But we have those, don't we?
Do we?
I swear,
Like
one
ones
of the
that
later
like
ones that
ones that behave
didn't
exactly
play.
like you.
Well, so there's one
Well,
that
how
I
they
didn't
behave
play
exactly
towards
like
the
you.
end.
I think when you flip a tile, they flip a tile. They're your shadows.
Oh, so it's a literal...
like at the same time
I
as you.
see.
Yeah. So like it's almost
I thought
like
you meant just like-
this would help me, but it might also hurt me because they might flip tiles that reveal like enemy spawn points or cross panels or take away cross panels.
That's so like you pressing the flip tile button causes all the enemies to flip a tile.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Sorry.
good job, Mike.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I did think of that on the
I-
fly again. Just want to throw that out there to any developers at Nintendo.
I got one. This is maybe a little simpler, but what about just enemies that they can draw tiles towards? They can flip tiles towards them from across the room, kind of like the reverse of the big guys that stomp and send tiles away from them. They draw all the tiles towards them.
Oh, interesting. So like they're
No, no.
magnets. They're magnetized.
Yeah.
How do they work?
I
That's a
don't know what if I'm trying to think of like if that would hinder you if you got drawn towards this enemy. I guess it could. They could draw you away from other enemies or whatever. I don't know. It's very very early development idea. Minutes into development.
All right, so my answer would be, so there's like these carrot looking enemies that kind of crawl at you, and I find them very disconcerting. And I guess I would just make like a whole level about different kinds of enemies that like move towards you in really upsetting ways. And I think that would just be more like a psychological element, whereas everything else is kind of this is a game mechanic that you have to overcome, and just have them move in ways that make you upset.
This is the creepypasta version of the game.
Yeah. This is the Godzilla. It made me kill my brother version.
Yeah, it's the cartridge you get at like a garage sale that's not there the next day.
Can't believe you remember the Godzilla creepy.
Hell yeah, let's fucking go.
I don't want to leave this out, but there, we'll see how much we can talk about it. There's a multiplayer mode in this game, but it's not competitive. It's cooperative. 2 players play at the same time.
Stupid.
So there's a bit of teamwork and coordination there, but there's also potential for some unintentional, maybe intentional sabotaging if you're not synchronized, where like you're flipping tiles and then another one's undoing your work, or you guys are getting in the way of each other. I think that's a great idea, and I'd love to hear if anybody played that mode. But I also wonder, like, couldn't a competitive mode have worked as well, like a Bomberman style thing, where like maybe the enemies are also on the screen, but you guys are also trying to like flip each other and send each other flying and stuff. Like I feel like that's the mode I would have wanted to see.
I think that like with Bomberman, like it's almost built into the mechanic. It's almost built into like the most obvious way that you interact with the game, that this could be used against other people. Whereas I think like just by virtue of the fact that you have no idea what if so each level can have built-in features, but when you're just messing with each tile, it could be anything that you reveal. I think just the randomness of it kind of doesn't really put it in a place where PvP makes sense, because everything you do is kind of fucking random.
Yeah, I think it's weird to do PvP, but one way I would like to experiment with is if they had, maybe there. I mentioned that enemy that can like turn you into other enemies. It turned me into the big guy, but I think it can turn you into like any of those enemies. What if you're playing? It's you versus your friend, and you each pick secretly one of those enemies to be. So it's almost like a little like there's a rock paper scissors thing to it, where it's like, oh, the stompy guys.
Oh, we got some asymmetric multiplayer going here.
Yeah, like the jumpy guys might be pretty good against the stompy guys because they're always in the air, but then like the people that draw new people like might be good against the stompy guys because they're too slow. Everyone's good against the stompy guys. They suck.
And the one thing that doesn't suck about this podcast is that we always end it the same way, with the essential games list. That's just the one thing that doesn't suck about this podcast. There's a lot of things that do suck, but this isn't one of them. And you know what? To be honest, this game doesn't suck either. You'll notice that we haven't really, we've commented on some things, but we haven't really complained about the game. And I think we got a pretty competent game here, folks. I think we have something that, really just depends on the player themselves to figure out if they're going to like it or not. I was surprised to read that stuff about the cuteness thing as well, but like, I don't know, like that was back then and this is now, and I think it's fine that it's so cute. I kind of like that it's so cute. And I like that it reminds me of Pokemon, and I like that it was made by Pokemon people, and I like that it's it's like a puzzle game, but it's also just like a fun video game. Like it's just video games. It's not like I have to think hard about anything. It's like if I figure out the solution, sure, but otherwise I can just kind of fight my way out of this. That's great. There's just one weird thing where there's like a timer in the stages too, but there's no
you can't
communication.
See it though.
Yeah, there's no communication.
You keep getting
of
5-second pickups, but you don't know what the fuck it's doing. Maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
So
sorry, we didn't talk about that.
I forgot about that too.
It's all right. I'm bringing
crazy.
it up now. That's what you do for. So there's all that stuff. I'm just gonna say though, like for me personally, I don't think it's like an essential game. I don't think like when I'm thinking about like games you must play on the NES, I'm throwing this on the list, and I don't know if that's like I don't know what reason that is. I don't know if it has to do with like the simplicity because that doesn't matter to me because it's fun, or if it has to do with just like the like the repeating concept every 10 stages and being too many stages, but there's nothing wrong with it being plentiful. So I think I just don't think I'm convinced yet is my problem. I'm not entirely sold on it. And so I'd rather be hesitant than haphazardly add it to the list without hearing from the guys. So Joe, what is your vote?
So at first, as I played World 1, whatever you want to call that, the first 10 levels, I was kind of like, oh, okay, like this is it. This is like the Game Freak game, kind of, it was a little lackluster to me. But it wasn't until I started playing other worlds, and maybe I am overselling this element to it a little bit, but like I really liked just the differences in the different worlds, and that's where it started to get its hooks into me a little more, where I enjoy the way that just changing the enemies really changes the way the game works and really changes the gameplay in general. And the more I played, the more I saw the charm. Each level, I was like, okay, this is interesting. It kept me thinking. It kept me enjoying it. I think this is a great game. I do think that maybe it's not really. I don't think it's the master of what it does. If that makes any sense. Like where I feel like it's really cool, but I'm not mind blown enough by it in a way that I feel like I need to be to vote this essential. So I think it's a play it. I definitely still don't think it's essential. So I'm gonna stick with play it.
Sean.
Yeah, I was never gonna vote this essential. I think it's got a lot going for it. I think it's a very well put together game, but I think like for me at least, maybe this is very much colored by more modern versions of the puzzle game. Puzzle games are more about like distillation of mechanics and like how do you make this into the whole goddamn thing. And I think this game is a little too unfocused to be about it. And I know that every level is about flipping tiles, but like If you don't know what the tiles are going to flip to, what does that mean about your knowledge of the world? And if you're not going to be knowledgeable of the world, then are you a master of the world? And if you're not a master of the world, do you truly know everything about the puzzles in this game? So, not essential, still fun, still weird, very weird, mostly weird. Mostly weird game.
All right, and that has it. So thanks, guys, for not making me look like a fool there. And hopefully I don't look like a fool on every episode, but there's nothing you can do to stop that. You know, sometimes you just have to wing it, you have to go with it, and you just have to believe in what you say. So do you guys believe me when I say that?
Wholeheartedly.
It only matters if you believe you.
Uh-oh.